What if there was a way forward in life that was filled with ease, empowerment, and a sense of direction? I'm Debbie Rosenfeld, personal empowerment mentor and guide, and you're listening to Elevated Embodiment, a way to calm the chaos in life by taking radical accountability for where you are. I am so grateful you are here today. I am feeling touched and aware of all the beauty that has been surrounding our lives. It's a beautiful spring day outside, and we just had Easter. So spring just brings such hope. So today I have the honor and privilege to have my guest, Clare Baukham, who is a beautiful soul and has a powerful story to share. Welcome, Clare.
Thank you. So great to be here with you.
It's good to have you here with us too. Share a little bit about yourself, and then we can go into your
Yeah,
what you
so
want to share.
I am a serial entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
I currently have a financial advisory practice that I run in Canada, and I absolutely love what I do. I love money. I've been a flower store owner, I've been a professional actor, I've kind of done it all. So I realized when I realized that I was doing all of this because of my love for money, then I thought, well, I should go and study money. And so here I am. And I absolutely love what I do. And I love helping people become extremely wealthy. So I find joy in, I get to mentor people, I get to mentor clients as well, and other people who are trying to grow and scale their businesses. So yeah, so I'm here though, obviously, to share my story, which you will get into with me.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And you are a wife and a mom.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes. Let's not forget those most important roles.
Yeah.
I
To
am.
your
I
two
am.
boys.
Yes. So I have been married for actually on March 27th, we celebrated 14 years. I had just come back I had been in Mexico for 2 months. So I had a little jet lag on because we were 2 hours behind. I'm at Eastern time usually. And so we didn't do much, but normally we do. But we just bought a new dishwasher. See, that's how things start to go. You're 14.
14
Um,
years of marriage and a new dishwasher. I
dishwasher.
get it.
So my husband said, I'm not washing dishes anymore by hand. So let's get a dishwasher. And then, but also we're going to be celebrating 21 years together. So we were together from a very young age. Yeah. And then so we got married in I think it was about 6 years into our dating. I wanted to make sure, because he's 4 years younger, I wanted to make sure he really did want to get married. And then in September of 2019, I had my little guy, Henrik. So he's going to be turning 5 in September.
My
So
goodness.
I know,
And
I
he
know.
is a very sweet little boy.
Yes, he is the love of my life. No offense, babe, if you're listening.
So I would love for our audience to hear about your story about your mom
Mhm.
and whatever else that you'd like to share of, yeah, what what
Yeah.
transpired.
So my mom and I were always extremely close. When people say they were close with their parent, I don't know if they were as close as my mom and I were. My mom and I have two older brothers, and then we have my dad. So we were the only two females of the family, right? So we had this very special bond. And
Bond,
so,
yeah.
yeah. And also, I don't know, being the youngest, I don't know, I'm the baby of the family and the whole thing, right? So my mom started to become ill in it was kind of 2017, maybe a little bit before that. You start to see someone not being able to walk as far as they could have and things like that. And okay, you're kind of noticing it, no problem.
Yeah.
And I remember we were in Mexico. So we own a condo on the beach in Puerto Vallarta. And so we were there, and she couldn't walk from the condo to the snack bar, which is only about, I don't know, maybe 100 feet away.
Mhm.
So she had to stop and kind of pretend to look up at the tree. And I was like, okay, I know, because her back was hurting and she was having trouble breathing. So it turned out, I think it was that year in 2017, we found out she had COPD. So she was a longtime smoker and then she quit. So I was so proud of her as well. She quit over like the course of a number of years as well. So, but she did it with such grace. Like
Yeah.
she was just a stylish, graceful lady with a lot of power behind her as well.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah. So I think we went. So we came home from Mexico. We got the place in 2017. So that was our first trip there. And as the time went on, okay, I just kind of noticed she wasn't. It was just the COPD was bothering her. So I think she got a couple puffers and things like that. But then it was 2018. So we went there in the winter, came back, and throughout the summer of 2018, it was a series of doctor's appointments and figuring out why this breathing was getting so bad.
Mm.
So we went down every path that we could to figure out the COPD situation. This family is not, by this family, I don't mean necessarily my brothers, but my husband and my dad and my mom and I. We were very,
Yeah.
very tight. We were so tight that so Andrew and I, my husband's name is Andrew. We went to Europe for our honeymoon. So for 4 weeks. So we went to Amsterdam, Paris, and then Rome. But we were so tight with my parents that they met us on our honeymoon in Rome for 2
Oh,
weeks.
fun.
Oh, it
Yeah.
was glorious. It was such a
Mm.
good time. So we have videos of it, and I'm so grateful for those videos now that in hindsight that we've lost my mom. So in 2018, we kind of had this feeling that it would be cancer, lung cancer.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we were avoiding it. And we were avoiding it meaning just trying to keep positive, not avoiding
Yeah.
it meaning not going to the doctors. We were going to all the appointments that we could.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, our GP, his bedside manners had kind of gone out the window. And so when my mom was finally diagnosed with lung cancer, he said to us, I was in the office with her because my dad refused to go in because he didn't want to see the doctor's
Yeah.
face.
Yeah.
And he said, well, Claire, you should basically just let your mom go home and do what she wants to do with the rest of her time. And I'm like, excuse me, we're fighters here. And my mom was
Yeah.
like, yeah, forget him. So we went home, and I was not pregnant. I didn't have any kids yet. So Andrew and I would basically, I'd work all day and then I'd stay up until 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning finding alternative cancer
Mm.
care, alternative cancer remedies. We
Yeah.
went, all the things you hear, the scorpion venom, the whole
Yes.
thing, the whole
Yes.
thing.
Yeah.
We did everything. We tried everything. And so eventually I had had enough of her. So her ankles were swollen, bad circulation, right? We weren't
Yeah.
sure if there was a problem in the heart or not. So it turned out there was cancer on the lung, and then there was also cancer on the lymph node, which is right below, right in the middle of the rib cage, right? That
Mm-hmm.
lymph node
Mm-hmm.
there. And so in all of our research, so my husband was a licensed cannabis grower as well.
Mm-hmm.
So for medical purpose. So we did cannabis, we did anything you could think of.
Yeah.
Oxygen, if you can get oxygen directly onto the cancer, it will obliterate it. But how do you get it? Do you have to open a person up and so on and so forth,
Right.
right?
Right.
So everything. We have an incredible naturopath. So we started seeing him,
Mm-hmm.
and they were doing the vitamin C and the mistletoe therapy and hyperthermia. So we were doing all of that. And then I said to my mom, hey, mom, my esthetician told me about this guy, this Chinese doctor. So traditional TCM, traditional Chinese medicine and acupuncture. I said, do you want to give it a shot? She's like, yeah, sounds good. Let's do it. Because
Yeah.
what else are we going to do? She can't breathe, right? Her
Right.
ankles are
Right.
so her ankles were so swollen she couldn't even put slippers on. Her
Mm.
feet and ankles were so swollen, right? So, okay, let's go. I called them and I said, hi, you don't know me. My esthetician knows you because one of her clients and so on. This is how I got your number. And they were a little apprehensive. They're like, okay, well, how'd you get our number? I was like, okay. So I told them. We go in, it was October of 2018. And my mom goes in and I waited for her. Now, if you know, acupuncture is usually 40 minutes with the needles, and then it's 20 minutes with the hot herbal bags
Yes.
afterwards
Yep.
to release, right? So I waited. I think I must have gone to like the Indigo bookstore or something and just looked around anxiously, right? My mom came out and she looked, I hadn't seen her so relaxed. And she had a little bit, they had put a needle in her forehead. So she had a little dab of blood, and the nurse came rushing after her and dabbed the blood. I laughed and I said, "How do you feel?" And she said, "So relaxed."
Mm.
And I was like, okay, good. So that continued for a few months. By the third session, I could see the bones in her feet again.
Oh, wow.
She was doing amazing. So that was about mid-October we started. So she was going twice a week. So
Mhm.
probably by the end of October, I was like, "Ooh, Mom, I can see the bones." And she goes, "I know, look, I can put my shoes on." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, amazing." So we had such great hope. So by Christmas, she went for another MRI or CT scan, I can't remember. And the doctor said, "Your cancer's shrunk." And we were like, "Hey, hey, hey," in the background.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and she was like, so she was also eating a ketogenic diet.
Mhm.
She did an entire Christmas Eve. So I'm half Italian. My mom was
Mhm.
Irish, my dad is
Mhm.
Italian. But
Mhm.
my mom loved to do the Christmas Eve thing with the Italian,
Yes.
right? So
Yes.
she
Yes.
did an entire Christmas Eve meal, all ketogenic, cooked everything from scratch, from hors d'oeuvres to dessert, all the way.
Wow.
That's how good she was feeling.
Yeah.
So they were booked to go January, February, and March back to the condo in Mexico, because who likes winter, a Canadian winter? Nobody, as far as I'm
Yes.
concerned.
Yeah.
Only
Yeah.
you crazies, only you crazies. So she went, and we decided we would keep up the protocols, because there was a doctor down there who could do similar to the naturopathic doctor and kind of similar to the Chinese doctor up here. But just weren't as good. So she
Yeah.
actually fell very ill. We were there the first 2 weeks of January, and you go on vacation. I needed a vacation from my vacation. I was
Yeah. Yeah.
exhausted from
Yeah.
running back and forth 3 or 4 times a week to get her into the clinic. She would be there for 3 or 4 hours doing the IV drips and everything,
Yeah.
right? She wasn't doing great by the time we left, and I didn't feel good leaving. However, I had a lot of
Leaving Mexico, you
leaving
mean?
Mexico. Yeah, leaving
Okay.
Mexico. I didn't want to leave her there.
Yeah.
However, my brother was going, and I thought, okay, no problem. So at least someone's going to be there. My dad was there with her. I also had to leave because I had severe nausea.
Mm.
Yes. Yes. So I left, and we got home, and I took a pregnancy test, and I was very blessed, because we got pregnant very quickly with Henrik, and
Yeah.
it was such a wonderful feeling, and scary,
Yeah.
but it was so
Yeah.
great. So I was supposed to travel back down in March to see
Mhm.
my mom, but due to like the Zika virus, all that threat that was happening with the mosquitoes,
Yes.
I didn't go back down. And so my mom actually fell very ill and went to the hospital. And my dad was in such a panic. My dad, when he gets into that panic, it's hard. It's the love of his life. So
Yes. Of course.
I take complete charge. And my poor
Yes.
dad, I'm sorry, Dad. I yelled at him a little, not yelled, but I raised my voice and I said,
Yeah.
"Get her the CT scan now." And in Mexico, it's private healthcare, so you can get it like that, and you'll get
Yeah.
the result like 2 hours later.
Mhm.
So they did. They didn't find anything in the brain or anything. It turned out it was a UTI. I'll fast forward the story a little bit. 2019, I was pregnant. I had a wonderful time with my mom. And end of 2019, Henrik was born in September of 2019. And by the following year, so it was 2020, right before the pandemic hit, I was supposed to take Henrik. He would be 5 months old. I was supposed to go like February 16th, and my mom was due to go back down February 6th. A few days before, she was so sick that I was calling off the trip, and she begged me not to.
Oh.
So we figured it was another UTI, same symptoms. My dad said somehow we took the electronic buggy, the person will drive you to the plane. We had to take
Yeah.
that to the airplane. She shouldn't have flown.
Yeah.
She got down there, and she actually was great. And she was shopping for stuff for Henrik, and oh, he's my grandson's coming. I'm so excited. My daughter, la la la. And we got there on the 16th. When we got there, Andrew actually had tears in his eyes. He said, she doesn't look good. And I said, yeah, no, she doesn't look good. And from there, she was on the balcony. She basically waited for me to arrive. And that was it. She just kind of fell apart. I put her in the bed.
Yeah.
I found her, like, I couldn't get her up. It was hard to get her up.
Yeah.
Off the floor of the chair, whatever, wherever she was sitting. It was hard to get her up. I had to lift her up. I'm going to omit pieces for her because
Yeah.
I know
Yes.
she wouldn't want me to go into
course.
major detail, but anyway, we put her in the hospital there, back into the intensive care unit. We put her,
And
we
was
got her
this in
all,
Mexico?
yes,
This
yes.
was in Mexico.
Yeah. So it's
And
again,
and
private healthcare.
okay. Just I want to interrupt just for a second.
Mm-hmm.
Between 2018 and 2020, that time, and I know I heard you loud and clear share that you guys are fighters.
Yeah.
But how were you feeling in between that whole time
Mm-hmm.
of through this whole, like, watching your mom, experiencing your mom slowly get a little bit better, but
Yeah.
then decline?
So I felt two things. I felt powerless
Yeah.
and I felt frustrated because she stopped doing the Chinese doctor. And I'm
Mm.
sorry, I should have said that earlier in the story, that that was why the deterioration started. So from 2019, after she did the Christmas dinner, she decided she went to Mexico, did all the protocols there. And when she came home, she started to kind of make excuses. Well, I don't feel good when I take the Chinese herbs and I don't want to lie there and do the acupuncture. So my frustration grew.
Yeah. She
Um,
was making the decision not to get
yes,
treatment. Yeah.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And so we didn't do any chemo or radiation or anything at that point.
Yeah.
But then when I went back down to Mexico with Henrik and Andrew,
Yeah.
and we put her in the ICU, there I am standing in the ICU. Andrew's got Henrik, or Henrik's got Andrew. You never know with those two.
Yeah.
And Henrik's only 5 months old. So I would have pumped because I breastfed him. He's got a bottle for him or whatever. And I'm up there in the ICU standing there. And, with COVID, it was COVID, right? So they made us
Oh,
mask and it was the beginning of COVID.
yes. Yes.
And here's the neurologist coming in. And I'm not fluent in Spanish. I can get along, but medical terms, it's, you don't know medical, conversational terms. So here's the neurologist coming in and saying, kind of in half English, kind of in half Spanish, would you want to see your mom's her brain scan? And I said, no, I don't. Just tell me if there's cancer. And he says, no, I think you should see it. And I said, okay, doc, show me. He takes his like big pen and he starts counting all the tumors. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, keeps going, 28, 29. He goes, anyway, there's more, there's lots. And I said, okay, so what do you want to do? Do you guys remove them? What do we do? And he says, no, you can't remove that many. And I was like, okay. So I spoke to my naturopath, who's also he's a natural oncologist as well. And he said, get her on dexamethasone. Dexamethasone? Don't quote me on that. Dex is something.
Yeah.
I went up there and I said, what are you giving her? And they said, we're giving her this. And I said, good. That would keep the swelling down, enough for me to get her home.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, in the background, Andrew is working on a private jet ambulance, which was a nightmare to get. There is a song that I don't know why this song is this time frame of being here for me in Mexico with my mom. I wrote about it. It's called Nightmare in Mexico, Nightmare in Paradise. The song is Isabella by Enya. So if anyone wants to pair some music with my story, go listen to that while you're listening to this podcast.
Yeah.
So we get her home finally on a private jet ambulance. My one brother comes down and we get her off and we cheered as we saw the jet, because we're very close to the airport, as we saw the jet go, because we were like, thank God we got her home.
Yeah.
So they got home to our local hospital. She was there for 10 days and they wanted to start brain radiation and the whole thing. At that point, I should have forced her to go back to the Chinese doctor, but I knew she didn't want to be forced, so I didn't.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
wanted it to be her choice.
Yes,
She also
absolutely.
had a very bad blood clot in the artery in her left calf. So
Oh,
it was
wow.
poisoning her body. So the one thing was Easter Sunday, 2020. It was April 12th, 2020. It was we have a dreary day here today. It was exactly this kind of day, chilly, dreary, and gross. There I am on Easter Sunday. Chief of surgery of the hospital calls me on my cell phone. And I'm like, why are you calling me? This is weird. Why are you calling me? Why don't you call Frank, my dad?
Yeah.
Oh, no, this is the number that your mom put on file.
Mm.
He said, we want to take the blood clot out. If we put her on the operating table, she will die.
Yeah.
If we resuscitate her, which she has a do not resuscitate, we resuscitate her, we will break every rib in her body because she's so frail and she will
Yeah.
be in excruciating pain. My brothers and my dad, out of all of them, this was put on me.
Yeah.
God gave this to me.
Yeah.
And so I said, Doc, send her home.
Yeah.
Do not operate on her.
Yeah.
So I had her sent home. I was there to receive her when she came home that night at 9 p.m. And I gave her whatever she wanted. We don't drink Coke and stuff in our house. She wanted a
Yeah.
Coke because she had this taste in her mouth from all the drugs. I said, nope, give her the Coke. Give her whatever
Yeah.
the hell she wants.
Yeah. Yeah.
We had the bed already in the house for her. From there, she lasted 3 days, 3 long days. And I don't know if you guys know about when you put an oximeter
Oh,
on
yeah. What measures your
yeah,
oxygen on your,
yeah,
yes. Yeah. On your feet.
that should be 98, 99 for most of us.
Right. Yeah.
They said if it goes below 90, they're suffocating. If it goes below 85, they're dying. I don't know why. I just decided to check my mom's in those last few days, and hers was at 75.
Oh, wow.
And I said to the doc, the nurses were in and out, giving her, things to make it so she didn't feel anything. I said, can she feel that she can't breathe? No. I said, good. Because the last thing I want is for her
Yeah.
to feel that. Sorry.
Yeah. No need
To
to
feel that
apologize.
lack of breathing. Because that was like her biggest panic.
Yeah.
And I told my dad that she wouldn't go. I left my brother. I knew when it was going to be her last moments because I felt her skin and it felt salty.
Yeah.
So I knew the body was just dying. And I left my one brother there. And I'm forever grateful that he was there because I had Henrik and I nursed him at night. I told my dad, you need to let her go.
Yeah.
Otherwise, she's not going to go. So he did. And so as soon as my brother said at 4:45 in the morning, she's gone, or 4:50, sorry, on April 15th, I said to Andrew, I got to go. You're going to have to give him a bottle. He said, go, you need to go. I went. And I wouldn't go to my mom because I knew my mom would be like, don't you go to me. If I'm just a body, don't you dare. Don't you do it. So I didn't.
Yeah.
And my dad was beside himself. My dad, I remember the day before, there was a couch, her bed was up against a couch, and my dad moved the couch aggressively out of the way. And he got in bed with her and snuggled her. And he just wanted to be with his love one more time.
Of course. Yes.
And that for me, these moments, they break you.
Yeah.
And I won't tell you the story about my one brother who has a problem with alcohol, how there was an extreme altercation between he and I during all of this, and my mom heard it all, and that was the last memory she had of him. I won't go into that story. That's enough.
Yeah.
That enough, is enough for you to hear. So it was a very chaotic time, and I was nursing, as I said. So everyone else did it with so much alcohol, and I did it with none.
None. Yeah.
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 So
Let's just take a
that
breath for a second. This is a lot.
yeah. It's powerful because she was powerful. And I
Yes.
actually had this vision because I was texting with my brother. He was giving me like the live playback. I was laying in bed with Henrik and he was giving me the live playback. And I said, tell mom, I know she wouldn't want me to be there right now. And that's why I'm not there. And Carlo goes, you're right. She wouldn't want you to be here. I had this vision of my mom coming out of her body and standing at the end of her hospital bed with my dad and my brother and the nurse there. And she stood beside her father, and who was passed as well when I was 3, because her father was her favorite. And I heard her say, just like my mom would say, looking down at her body, I heard her say, well, that sucked. I heard it. And I thought,
Yeah.
good for you, mom. We called my mom La Luce, the light,
Mm.
because she was such a
Mm.
guide for all of us.
Yes.
And so I
La
said,
luce.
La
Mm.
Luce, I said, the light meets the light.
Mm.
And I said, good for you, mom. You're free. You're free from the
So,
shackles of your body.
so beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah.
You share.
Yeah. Yeah. So my second, I had another loss, another large loss that
Yeah.
happened in 2022. So here we are 2 years later, almost to the
Yeah.
day, actually. So my mom's was
Oh my
April
gosh.
15th, yeah, of 2020. And so Andrew and I had a very difficult time. I told you with Henrik, it was very fast for us to get pregnant, right? It was
Yeah.
literally the first try. We were blessed. The second one took me a year, and I knew deep down it was not meant to be. But I sought alternative help. I went to the Chinese doctor, who I still see, the one that my mom was seeing, and
Yes.
He's helped me immensely with my Crohn's disease and everything. And I got pregnant. As soon as I found out I was pregnant, I actually was sad. And
Mm.
I thought I was actually still nursing Henrik. He was 2.
Mm-hmm.
And my milk dried up. So I cried in bed with him because I just knew that something was wrong.
Mm.
And through a series of tests, they found out that the baby had a thickened nuchal fold on the back of his neck, which
Mm.
meant he would have trisomy 21. So they did all the testing, the amniotic fluid test and everything, just to confirm. I needed to know. And they said the chances of him making it are very slim. And if he does make it, he won't live for very long. So, and if you do take him to term, you may not make it either.
Oh
So I
wow.
thought, yeah. So I thought, okay, universe, okay, God, I hear you. This
Yeah.
is not meant to be. So
Yeah.
I had to make the decision. Do I want to take the chance? And Henrik loses his mommy, and Andrew loses his wife. My dad loses his
Yeah.
daughter.
Yeah.
Do I want to impact
After losing your mom 2 years
losing?
prior.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Do I want to? So I unfortunately had to make the decision. And, Debbie, I said this to you when we chatted before, that I wasn't going to say this, but a miscarriage would have been an easier choice,
Yeah.
because wouldn't have had a choice.
Right. Exactly.
And
Just happens
so
naturally.
I had to make the choice. And so they said to me that it was the doctors all routed around me and said, we think this is the right choice, given the fact that your life is in extreme danger as well.
Sure.
So it
Yeah.
wasn't just trisomy 21. There was a number of issues, but those I've kind of
Mm.
blocked and I don't remember.
Yeah.
I had to go to a 2-day prep. They said to me, all of the other so they said if it's an unwanted pregnancy, they're not allowed to have their spouse or significant partner or whatever. And I said, well, isn't this an unwanted pregnancy? And they said, no, you want your baby. You just can't
Yeah.
have them. And I
Yeah.
said, yeah. So um, in the waiting room, like where they prep you, it was awful because they like put me in labor. I was 17 weeks pregnant. They put me in labor and I looked down. It was a long hallway with like those really big chairs, hospital
Mm-hmm.
chairs.
Mm-hmm.
And there was like 12 other women and none of them had a partner with them. So I thought, oh, they're all just unwanted pregnancies. But mine is the only one that I want. And I was like, wow, how unlucky.
Yeah.
So when I went in, they asked me, I kind of, I kind of regret not holding him
Yeah.
because, you know, as a mom, you want to comfort as best you can. And I thought I should have held him to comfort him, to
Mm.
release his soul.
Yeah.
So I regret not holding him. But
Yeah.
at the same time, I don't know if that would have caused me more trauma.
Mm.
So I had them give me little footprints, and they're like the size of like my thumbnail.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so,
How
I was
precious.
yeah, I was like, looped up on fentanyl. Fentanyl. Who gives fentanyl? We've talked about this.
Yeah.
It, and something else, some combo. And so, I came out of the room and I was like, hey, babe, how are you? And Andrew, of course, was crying. And I also regret that. But I think, given the fact the powerful drugs I was on, right? But
Yeah.
so, how do you come back from that? Right?
Yeah.
Those two losses, how do you go on? And that's what
How do
this
you
is.
navigate life and loss with grace or not?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So
And you're sharing your raw story of both your mom and your beautiful baby boy.
yeah, yeah. So that is the question. How do you and how did I? Because now I live a life of total empowerment and happiness.
Yeah.
Even though with loss, if anyone, who's listening to this has experienced a loss, you don't you're forever changed. You don't ever come
Yes.
back exactly the
Yes.
same. you
You're
know
not the same. Exactly.
we
Exactly.
we just had Easter. Today's a Wednesday. We had it on Sunday night. I had a cry in the bath about missing my mom.
Yeah.
So it doesn't ever go away, but there are some incredible tools. So after that baby and my mom and having Henrik, I weighed 196 pounds. Now I'm 5'7". So for me, 196 is a little bit, it's too much. And the doctor told me, like, this is on the obese side, like on the obese scale, right? Quote. So I said, before I went through the loss, I contacted my trainer who's down in LA. I'd worked with her before.
Hmm.
And I said, listen, this is what I'm going through. And she was so wonderful about it. But she said, okay, do your thing. And then I'm ready for you. May 1st. So that was, sorry. So the date of my mom's loss was April 15th. The date of the baby loss was April 21.
Wow.
Yeah. So May 1st, I said, Steph, let's do this. I figured the only way out of this was to focus on my fitness, because I used to be a fitness athlete
Yeah.
before Henrik. My fitness, my business, and my family.
Yeah.
That was it. So
Yeah.
I went forward with those things in mind, started my weight loss journey. I also worked with that naturopath who helped my mom. He's been my naturopath for 20 something years. He helped me with my
Mm.
Crohn's disease, basically dragged me out of the grave from my Crohn's disease. He said to me, why don't you try something called SSP therapy,
Mm.
safe and sound protocol therapy?
Mm. Mm.
And I didn't
Tell me,
understand what it was. Yeah.
yeah, tell
So
me about it.
So what that is you basically listen to this music that is it's specifically designed to actually physically tune the bones and the muscle in your inner ear to change your brain's response to trauma. So it
Wow.
physically changes you. It's like lifting weights, you physically change your muscle.
Yes.
Yeah. This music,
Yes.
it sounds kind of funny, sounds like very high in treble, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
So I did a few sessions and I worked with his wife, my naturopath's wife. She's also a naturopath. And you know what? Her name's Dr. Vaughn. I said, you know what, doc? When I think of my mom or the baby, I don't get that deep weep anymore.
Yeah.
And she said, good. She said, that's what this therapy does.
Oh, wow.
So the cost, people often I forget, I think it was like $1,200 for me in Canadian dollars.
Yeah.
For
Yeah.
like the 6 sessions. You need to do 6 sessions. You need to complete a certain amount of hours of the music.
Sure. Sure.
Um, that for me was a tool. I've sent other clients there who've been through trauma with ex-husbands. I've sent, yeah, and they're like, I can't believe how much that helped me.
Wow.
Because
Wow. 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 Thank you.
that's not about a mindset change. That's about a physical
Right.
change happening in your body.
Yeah.
You just
Yeah.
listen to the music, right?
Yeah. Listen to the music. Wow.
That and focusing on those other things were what got me
Yeah.
through. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Claire. This was just really, really powerful, as well as the tools that you just shared, and even going to a natural path. I totally believe in natural medicine as
Yes.
well, because it
Yeah.
can take us a lot farther than Western medicine.
I
Thank
think
you.
you're welcome. And I think one more quick thing. I think the
Yeah.
most important thing is for people who are feeling completely lost is your loved one. I always think my mom's on the other side, and if I don't continue and excel, she'll be angry with
Yeah.
me. So think about what your loved one would want you to do. And
Yeah.
the first thing that comes to you is very likely what they would want you to do very well. And trust me, they'll wait for you and they'll watch
Yeah.
you because I get signs all the time.
This was a 6-2 studio production. Find us at six-two.studio for all your creative sound needs.